Hi, I'm Kayla McGuire, and thanks for joining me here where we talk about everything project management, especially as it relates to the world of startup. So today I want to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. It's something that gets me very excited, and it's something that I absolutely need in my work environment. But I also realize that I'm a bit of an outlier, and this is not something that everyone wants to deal with every single day, let alone even a couple times a year. The thing that I am talking about is ambiguity. And the reason I want to talk about ambiguity is because it's rampant in startup, it's rampant in tech. Even larger tech organizations are going to have some elements of ambiguity in there, especially for people in positions like project management. So I want to talk about this. I've seen it a lot in job postings lately for project management positions in startup or other kind of smaller business dynamic work environments. And there's this line that will read something like, needs to be comfortable with ambiguity or can operate in a state of ambiguity. And at first I was kind of thinking to myself, I don't really like that in the job description. It's not specific. It doesn't really tell me what they need. But the more I really got into this world, I realized that it is an actual thing, and it's good to put it in the job description to make your people that are going to apply, to make them aware that this is something that's going to be a big part of the job and something that they can deal with. So before I started the video, I pulled up the definition of ambiguity so we could have those specific words to refer back to. And the definition of ambiguity is the quality of being open to more than one interpretation, or inexactness. So what we're talking about is not really being sure what we're doing next or what we're doing now or how it's all going to work together. It's just this state of not necessarily confusion, but a lot of unknowns. And I think that is super important for a project manager, especially in a startup environment. It's important for them to be able to embrace that and to operate with that in mind. I've worked with people who absolutely cannot have that. Ambiguity drives them crazy. And that's okay. We're all different, right? Startup is maybe not a good fit for that kind of a person whose DNA, their personality just really can't do it. I've seen it make people physically ill. It wears some people out. For others like me, I get excited by it. I feel it activates something in my brain. I think it's a critical thinking part of my brain where it really activates that, and I start thinking about how to put the puzzle together. You got to find the pieces first, which I think is that ambiguous portion of it, is to find those pieces, and then I can put them together as a project manager. So I wanted to give you a few ideas of how to operate effectively in this heightened state of ambiguity that you're going to find in a startup environment. If this is something that you think is for you, you kind of thrive with ambiguity, it gets you excited, maybe startup is for you, I'm going to give you a few just tips about how I have operated in these situations and what's helped me. So the first thing that I do, and you're going to hear this a lot from me, is I ask a lot of questions. And what I mean by questions is not just asking questions to ask them, but asking really good clarifying questions around what the requirements are. So you're looking at, starting out, what are the goals? What are the milestones? What are the tasks? And why? Why are we doing those things? You'll want to know that for sure. And by asking those questions, you're really helping the other people too who are a part of this process, maybe your leadership team or your product team. You're really helping them to know that whatever direction that we've selected for now is the right direction. So asking a lot of questions is super important. Number 2, this is something that I learned. and it was a hard one for me to learn. But don't get too attached to ideas, especially in their early stages. When I first started working in tech startup and we were building something and then asked to pivot, it was really hard to get that original idea out of my mind, because it's what I thought we were doing. I thought we were going to launch it. And to be able to kind of push that out of your mind and say, you know, this is something that we worked on and we learned a lot from the project, or we learned a lot from this process, but now we have new information coming in from our clients and or our users or whoever, and we're informed in a different way, and a smart decision is now to work on this different thing. It's really hard sometimes to separate yourself from what you've been working on so hard, but just remember that whatever you've been working on, if you do have to abandon it or abandon part of it, you're not abandoning anything that you learned in the process. That's still with you, and you can take that with you to the next project or your next place of work. So that one was a super good learning for me. Number 3, when you're operating in heightened states of ambiguity, you don't necessarily want everyone on your team to feel that. You really actually don't want everyone on your team to feel that. And I'm talking about the people who are doing the building. So if you have a team of engineers or a team of designers or a team of whoever else that you're working with, accountants, whoever, you don't really want them to feel the ambiguity too. You're going to, as a project manager, you're going to find that you naturally absorb a lot of it, but you also need to be intentional about kind of absorbing that as well, so that your team can stay focused. Because if they feel like what you're working on is not what's going to be the final product, then they may not work as hard, they may not feel as invested, they may get frustrated. Why are we changing our ideas so often? This is getting really frustrating. You kind of want to absorb as much of that as possible and just really help them know that what they are doing is helping the team so much. We're building something, we're learning from what we're building, and that you're kind of going to handle all those pieces in terms of what's happening when and how we define the project. You don't want your team to take that into. So those are the 3 things that I've found in my experience have helped me in working in these very, very ambiguous situations at startup.